Thank you, Chair. That does seem to be the majority. Just for quorum purposes, if I could just ask that all voting members switch on their cameras just now, and I'll confirm your attendance. Luan Grujon, we've had the discussion and I see you are there. Councillor Leslie Dunbar, welcome back. Oh, you are on mute, but I know that you are there. Councillor Bell is... Councillor Bell? No, not quite yet. Councillor Cook, I can see, yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor MacDonald, yes, I can see you there as well. Thank you. Alan Gray is, yes, Alan's there.
I'm here, Derek, yep.
That's fine, thank you. And John Tomlinson, likewise,
yes,
there. So you do have Sandra MacLeod as well for the Chief Officer purposes. The only one, Councillor Bell's now returned with his coffee, so that's fine.
tea, actually.
My apologies. Thank you, Chair. And this is being recorded, members, just for your information.
Thanks, Derek. Just checking, I've seen Alan's comment in the chat. We're still quoted. I'm just doubting myself, but with two, we're still quoted with 2 members, are we, from NHS for the meeting? If Alan has to leave at 12:30.
Sorry, Sticky. Yes, 2 + 2 is the required quorum. So yourself, John Tomlinson, and Alan Gray are present from NHS side.
Okay, but it'll be 2 of us from 12:30, yes. But that's still fine. Okay, thank you. Right, thanks everyone. Thanks for getting your coffees and teas so quickly. We'll just go right into the last part of our agenda to take us to 1 o'clock. We've got 4 items. I'm just going to take them in order and start with the Justice Social Work Delivery Plan. I see we've got Claire Wilson with us today. Before Claire starts, just to say for those who weren't able to attend, we had a really informative seminar with Claire and Leslie Simpson, Kevin Toshney last week, which just really brought to life the breadth of the work that's around justice social work. So thank you, Claire and colleagues, for delivering that. And the slides will be shared if they haven't already been. The slides will come round for the IJB members to see. So Claire, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. This is to present the Justice Social Work Delivery Plan and follows on from our inspection report that was presented to the IJB in March, and obviously, as the Chair has said, about the Justice Workshop that we held last week. The plan, it's the first plan we've done for Justice Social Work, and this gives our objectives for the service over the next 3 years. It's framed around the local and national strategy drivers. The plan was, just prior to the inspection, the plan was in draft and it was submitted as part of our inspection. We got very positive feedback from the care inspector on our delivery plan, and it's the only one in Scotland where we have put our ambitions and our objectives into a document taken in the national and local drivers. One of the recommendations from the inspection report was obviously that we continue and go out for consultation with our plan and obviously get it published and embedded. So it has been out for consultation following our inspection report. Really good positive feedback, and I suppose the board today has to approve the plan and obviously agree with the annual report on progress to go to the Risk Audit and Performance Committee. I'm happy to take any questions. As the Chair said, there was a lot of slides for the workshop last week with quite a lot of information around justice social work, so that will be shared, and I'll get that shared today.
Thanks, Claire. I'll just open that up now. I see Alison Murray.
Hi, yes, it's just a quick one. There's a couple of justice targets within the autism strategy that we heard about last week. I was wondering if that is linked in with this plan.
So our delivery plan is framed around all our strategic plans and all the other plans as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Claire. Thanks, Alison. John Cook.
Thanks, Lauren, and thanks, Claire. It was just a comment to say that I thought last week's workshop was really helpful. But I think this is one of these areas where we're hiding our light under a bushel a wee bit, because some of the stuff you were telling us last week, like, for example, this plan is integrated with the LOIP, that's regarded as best practice. So maybe some, kind of, woohoo, are we doing well, might be good.
We're did say we were very forward thinking and transformational, and as I said last week, we were the only authority that put our community justice improvement plan in with our LOIP, and yes, we've had very, very positive feedback. So we are leading, sector leading, I think it said in the inspection report.
Thumbs up from John. Very good. I'm not seeing anyone else with any questions or comments. And that's, I think, Claire, that's not because of a lack of interest. I think we've had a really good input recently, and we've seen your inspection report. So I think take silence as real certainty and commitment about how well the service is delivering just now. So we'll move on to recommendations if there isn't anything anybody wants to bring up. The first one is to approve the Justice Social Work Delivery Plan, and the second is to instruct the Chief Officer to present an annual update to the Risk Audit and Performance Committee on the progress being made with the implementation of the plan. Okay, people happy with that? Yes, nodding heads. Okay, thanks folks, and thank you, Claire, for that input. Thank you. We're now moving on to the item on our locality plans. Who's speaking to this today? Is it Elaine McConaughey with us, or?
No, Luann, sorry, it's myself.
Alison.
Yeah, thanks. Elaine is actually on leave today, as is Anna. So unfortunately, we don't have either of them today, but we do have colleagues from Aberdeen City Council with us. I'll introduce them as part of the introduction, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. So this report is a culmination of the work that's been undertaken under our joint planning arrangements with community planning partners, particularly in Aberdeen City Council in our new single localities. The work began on refreshing the local outcome improvement plan and has culminated now, as I say, in the development of the 3 locality plans, which are appended to the report. They're before the IJB today for endorsement. The plans will go to the Community Planning Aberdeen Board tomorrow. As I say, the work was done in conjunction with our public health coordinators, 2 of whom, as I say, are on holiday today, so unfortunately are not here to be able to speak to the report. But we also have with us today Paul Teichler and Martin Smith, who are locality inclusion managers with Aberdeen City Council, and Colin Wright, who's community development manager with Aberdeen City Council, who worked alongside the public health coordinators to produce the reports. I will say, or produce the plans, sorry. I will admit to not knowing the detail in the plan terribly well, but I'm hoping if members have any queries in relation to the detail in the plans themselves, then my colleagues will be able to respond to those. But I would commend the work that's been done to get to this stage so far. I think it's an excellent example of that collaborative working that we've fostered over the last year or so. And from this point on, we'll use the outcome of that consultation to help shape the input to our refreshed strategic plan, which we'll bring to the IJB in December of this year. So as I say, I commend the plans to you for endorsement, and hopefully be able to respond to any questions you have.
Thank you for that introduction, Alison. I'll open that up for comments or questions for Paul, Colin and Martin, probably. John Tomlinson.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, very much good read to see through, to work through the locality plans, and very much welcome it as a key building block being put in there ahead of our strategic plan, so that things are fed from the localities upwards. So on reading this, I'm making an assumption, so I just wanted to check this out first of all, that we've got percentages in some places and numbers in other places. So where we've got percentages, do we actually have the numbers that those represent? And then my second question related to that is, what was the basis of choosing the percentages for improvement? Or so just more the methodology that sits behind this, I'd like to understand. I'm happy with the, noting the content and seeing this is coming forward, and it's extremely well presented. But that methodology just leaves that kind of question in my mind. And the reason I'm asking that is when we do come to our strategic plan, we'll want to be able to accumulate some of these indicators into a direction of targets and shifts that we're looking for then. So that's my two questions. I can repeat them if I've made that too complicated. Thanks.
No, it's fine, John. I think I understand. So, where we've quoted percentages or numbers, that's really kind of based on the improvement projects that we've got within the LOIP. And whether it's a percentage or whether it's a number, it is kind of down to the project charter and the project team and how they've developed their data and how they've suggested that they will make that improvement. So I think to answer your point about if we have a percentage, do we also know the number? I think we probably do. I couldn't give you any detail on that, but I think all the data is within the LOIP project charters, and we should be able to track that back and use any of that information going forward, for informing our strategic plan if we need to. So hopefully that answers your question. I'm not sure if any of my colleagues can provide any additional information in relation to that.
Yeah, it would be helpful if either Martin, Paul, or Colin could confirm that that is the case.
I see. Paul, do you want to come in? Paul, see your hand up.
Thank you. Yep. If yeah, I can confirm that's the case, and the basis for the percentage improvements in the locality plans were developed with the outcome improvement groups through the LOIP. So through analysis of the data that they had and looking to develop the stretch outcomes. So the percentage improvements were subject to consideration through the outcome improvement groups and now carried forward into the local locality plans.
Okay, that's great. So if I can, Chair, so if we wanted to track through any particular aspect of this, presume that we would be okay to contact the relevant Paul, Martin or Colin, just to understand an individual item better?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, John. Leslie.
Thank you, Chair. I'd also like to commend the work that's been done here in terms of pulling all this together, and particularly maybe to thank staff, but also to thank community members and groups who I think we can see had a really positive input to drawing this together. And it does really mark a real strength in the collaborative working that we're doing. I suppose my question's around, we see the impact of poverty in terms of health and social inequalities across our communities. It's mentioned as a priority in different localities, and it also, I think, sometimes it's specifically referenced in terms of food poverty and fuel poverty. And I just wonder about in terms of how we track any implementation or improvement in terms of any anti-poverty work that will impact on, you know, communities' health and well-being going forward.
Thanks, Leslie. Alison, do you want to come back on that one?
Yeah, just briefly, and again, you know, if any of my colleagues have further details, please feel free to jump in. But yes, I understand that there's a number of poverty-related work being undertaken, and we will obviously track that using the targets that have been agreed. But we anticipate that will feature strongly in our refreshed strategic plan as well, and it will be a priority for the partnership going forward. But in the meantime, that work will certainly be monitored through the outcome improvement groups and the LOIP as a whole.
Okay, does that answer your question, Leslie?
Yeah, I think so for the moment. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sandra MacDonald.
Thank you very much. And I too welcome this report in front of us and the approach underlying it and what's been done to get us to where we are. And I note that in the shared locality plans, that's on page 227 of the pack, it says as the plans evolve. But I was struck by the to be confirmed in the right hand column on the reports around the community connector, and I just wanted to understand how you know, these actual plans as they evolve, how they're updated and how that is communicated to everyone, I guess, but particularly to those that use them.
Thanks, Sandra. Alison?
Thanks. I wonder if Paul could help with that one, please.
I see Derek's also got his hand up.
Oh.
But
I'll let Derek go first.
okay. Oh, I'm not seeing Derek now on the screen.
The plans, Councillor MacDonald, will be live plans. So in terms of governance structures, that would be through the community planning management group and board as well. So as the plans develop, the improvement charters against these outcome targets will be developed, and the process to follow is through tests of change and try and get quick wins, for want of a better term. But if other projects are identified that will fit in with there, then the governance route through community planning, Aberdeen Management Board and group would be the appropriate route, and at a local level then that would be communicated, and that provides the opportunity for local people local communities to propose new plans as well, new projects, as well as be informed of how that's developing. So it's a very good structure, a very effective structure that allows that governance to work.
Thanks, that's helpful.
Thanks, Derek. Any other questions from anyone? If I may, I've got a question that's just a sort of a daft lassie question. I think the plans are excellent, and I really can see real people's experiences in them, and it was a great read. I liked the visuals. I thought that clearly a lot of engagement around these plans. My question is, so what's the biggest barrier to these plans not being delivered? Do we know what that is, or what these things might be that might prevent these plans being fully actioned?
I guess there could be a variety of barriers, but I suppose what we're doing is we're trying to ensure that none of these are allowed to come forward. You know, there's capacity, I guess. There's you know, the engagement from the communities and the project teams to drive it forward. But as Derek's detailed that, you know, the governance around that it is pretty robust. So we're hopeful that none of these issues, you know, or if any of those issues were to emerge, you know, we would be on it, and you know, would be undertaking sort of remedial action to ensure that the overall delivery of the plan was not impacted.
Okay, thanks. I suppose I'm thinking from an IJB point of view, we're aligned with localities, we're placing this really central to our strategic plan, and just if there's anything else we need to be thinking of as we go forward with our strategy. But it sounds like it's so at the centre of what we're thinking, we're covering these risks.
Yeah, absolutely. And within our own leadership team objectives, we've also got a couple around about ensuring that our teams and our staff are all aligned within that locality approach as well. So there's that whole wraparound support around the delivery of this.
Okay, good, thank you. Philip, I think I saw Philip's hand up, and then Alison Murray.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions. So I'm looking at the South locality plan now. So there's on page 267, there's mention of decreasing the number of households in extreme fuel poverty and so on and so forth. And the lead organisations are noted as being SCARF and the anti-poverty group, but I'm wondering whether Aberdeen Heat and Power should be in there as well, because it does actually mention combined heat and power in the community ideas for improvement that we might test. Or that wouldn't be SCARF who would be the lead there, would it?
I'm not sure, Philip. I don't know whether Colin could respond to that. Colin's in the South locality.
Hi. Yes, I mean, I certainly think that Aberdeen Heat and Power would be a key part of taking this forward as well. The plan itself identifies those connectors who were identified through the process as having a particular interest in taking it forward, but it's not exclusive to other people having a key part in this, and through both the OIGs and the community planning process, there will be a number of other organisations we would expect, as it is a living plan, to step up at different stages in the plan to take it forward. And certainly there's connection to Aberdeen Heat and Power already in terms of producing the plan and agreeing the priorities in it. So I'm quite sure they will be crucial to that particular part of that particular action.
Yeah, it was just the bit about the lead group though, that they weren't featured there. It was, you know, there was SCARF, but not Aberdeen Heat and Power, which struck me as a little bit strange. No, thank you. Another question I had is just with regarding mental health, and just really wanted a little bit of clarity with the statement. So this is on page 271 of the report pack. So it says mental health, the rate of probable suicide 2014 to 2018 in the South locality is 10.9, lower than the city rate of 13.8. And I wondered what probable suicide rate actually meant.
Is there someone that is able to answer that, or if not, we can always follow that up, you know, if that's more public health query, but to you guys.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know the answer to that, so we could perhaps come back to you on that.
Yeah, that'll be fine. And then the very last question I have, there's mention of positive destinations in 2018-19, and it says 100% positive destinations in Cults, 89% in Lochside Academy. But what does that actually mean, though?
So I can give some detail on that, but we could probably come back with more detail. But it's essentially it's the figures collected by SDS Scotland, the career services, as to the return they get from pupils, as to whether they've reached training, education, or some form of employment within a period of leaving school. But the exact calculation details we can come back to you with.
Okay, so that means then that in Lochside Academy, 11% of the kids don't do anything by what you're just saying.
Well, 11% of the young people by the stage where it's been followed up have not successfully found employment training or further education. But it doesn't mean they never found employment training or further education. It means at that point.
Okay, thank you.
So just for clarity then, the query on the suicide data, Philip, was what was the specific that you were asking there, just so we're clear for the follow-up?
Okay, well, it was just really what is it? So there's the rate. So the statement says the rate of probable suicide 2014 to 18 in the South locality is 10.9, and the rate of probable suicide in central is 18.7. I'm just wondering what that actually means. Probable rate of suicide. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so it's the term and the understanding of that.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Philip. Derek.
Thanks, Chair. It was just to reference that as part of the overall refresh of the LOIP and the locality plans that you have before you, was a very comprehensive population needs assessment taken, and some of this data will undoubtedly come from them. So that'll be where the baseline data comes from, Councillor Bell, but we'll take that away and just come back and confirm that.
Thank you.
Thanks for those questions, Philip. I'm not seeing, John Tomlinson's hand just gone up.
Yeah, thank you. So question for Alison. So I'm just assuming, Alison, that we've got our workshop on the strategy on the 21st of September, and the legs are part of what's billed for that. So I'm assuming that you'll kind of guide us through how we abstract from these and then how that forms or helps to form the direction for the strategic plan. Would that be right?
Absolutely. The team are already working on making those connections, so extracting the particular health related comments from the and actions in the plan, and linking these to the wider consultation that we've been doing on our own strategic plan, and linking these into, and the session in September is going to try and draw all these strands together. So we're already working on that, but it will take us a few weeks to get there.
Good. No, that's helpful though. Thank you. So I don't see any other hands up, so we'll go to the recommendations, and we'll note there's a couple of follow-ups.
Chair, I have Alison Murray's hand up.
I'm sorry, Alison. Very sorry.
Hi, no, sorry, that's okay. It was just I think it might be a typo actually. On page 295, which is the Central People Plan, there's a very ambitious target for digital wellbeing of increasing it by 5,080%, the use of digital wellbeing resources. I was wondering if that was a typo, because that's 5,080 is a slightly strange number, and it's a very big number.
I'll certainly
not
check.
sure if you can respond to that, can you?
We like to be ambitious, but I will check that and make sure that's corrected.
Thank you.
Thanks for spotting that, Alison. We can get that. Paul's going to take that away to look at that. Okay, so if there are no further questions, a couple of follow-ups from the meeting on Philip's questions and the 5,000 percentage. We can get that checked, but subject to that, are we happy that we go to our recommendations, which is our first one is that we endorse the proposed locality plans for north, south and central localities? People happy with that? Yeah, good. We further support the development of locality work, including the implementation of the plans and the development of Aberdeen City Health and Social Care Partnership Strategic Plan. We're happy with that, and we've got a workshop on that in September, which is great, good timing. And that we instruct the Chief Officer to report to the Risk Audit and Performance Committee in 12 months with an update on locality planning, including the implementation of the locality plans. Yeah, people happy with that? Okay, good. Thank you very much for bringing that report, and to colleagues for joining us today. That was really helpful, and it's very exciting to read that detail. We look forward to hearing more about the progress. Okay, thank you. We're now on to the carer strategy. I think, Alison, will this be you staying with you for this item? Do you want to introduce the carer strategy report?
Thanks, Luann. This report seeks to approve a year-long extension to the current carer strategy, which actually has an end date of March 2021. I'd like to acknowledge the crucial role that unpaid carers play in our wider health and social care system, and indeed how that role has been impacted over the last 15 months or so. I'd also like to acknowledge that extending the current strategy for a year is not really where any of us would want to be. However, we didn't have the capacity and indeed the conditions were not right to undertake consultation to enable an updated strategy to be produced within the timescale. A benefit, and an unintended benefit, I guess, of the extension is that we can coordinate consultation in line with the work that we are undertaking in refreshing our strategic plan, and also that we can align the timescales of both the carer strategy and the strategic plan going forward to reduce the possibility of any consultation fatigue in future. The work on refreshing the carer strategy will begin immediately, basically, and we plan to bring that fully refreshed carer strategy to the IJB next March for approval. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Alison. I was going to ask Alison Murray to come in straight away, but I see your hands up, so we're great minds think alike. Alison, welcome your comments.
Hi, thanks. Yes, well, my first comment obviously is that we are actually breaching the Carers Scotland Act, which says quite clearly that the strategy needs to be reviewed within a period, that the period is the period of 3 years, beginning with whichever is the later date on which the local authority and the relevant health board published their local carer strategy or made a statement. So we are in breach of the legislation by not having reviewed it by now. I raised this before because I am concerned that during a time during which carers, unpaid carers, have struggled and suffered and continue to struggle because of COVID restrictions, because of limitations on what respite and support they can get, both formal and informal respite, that we're at a point where we're simply extending a strategy which was drawn up prior to COVID and prior to all the impact of COVID, and which has no acknowledgement of the impact of COVID. I know that Aberdeen City Council, Aberdeen IJB got a 1.05 million uplift on their funding for carers this year, which is to support the implementation of the Carers Act. And the actual spend, this should have tied in nicely with the review of the strategy, where we could have actually targeted that money in a way which has supported people who have been impacted by the COVID pandemic. And it is very disappointing that nothing was done to actually consult with carers on just the strategy and how we're moving forward on this, particularly when we look pre-COVID, pre-pandemic. We can see from that 2020 data that we were presented with earlier that only 34% of carers feel they're supported in their role.
Thanks, Alison. Alison, do you want to come back on that? Points raised by Alison Murray.
Absolutely, just to concur, as I say, this is not somewhere we would like to be, but we just didn't have the capacity to undertake a full refresh, during the response to COVID, and we were actually responding to what carers were telling us, in that they were not able to participate in consultation around about the refresh of the strategy, which is why nothing has been done until now, other than a sort of desktop exercise to review the existing strategy and update it in terms of completing the outstanding actions. But absolutely hear everything that Alison is saying, and as I said earlier, we do acknowledge the support that we get from unpaid carers, but we want to ensure that our refresh strategy absolutely reflects the impact that COVID has had, and absolutely is reflective of the thoughts and voices of our unpaid carers. So we commit to undertaking that full and thorough consultation over the next few months, and we hope that the refresh strategy that we bring forward in March will encompass all of these things.
Thanks, Alison. Alison, I know we can't change what's past, but are you content that there will be, in terms of the plan for going forward and that thorough co-production approach to the new strategy? And I'm taking it our carers, Alison in particular, and Shona will be included and involved in that process as it begins. Am I correct in that assumption?
Absolutely. We have the carer strategy implementation group, and our IJB carers reps are on there. We have third sector organisations who work closely with carers who will be on that. We have representatives of the partnership itself, and we also have our commission service for unpaid carers, which represents the views as well. So all of these people will be on that group and around about the work that we do to refresh the strategy.
Alison, Murray, do you want to come back? You content with the plan for going forward?
I think, yes, we have to. We obviously are where we are now, and we do need to move this forward. And so I think it is important, yes, to get that going and to hear the voices, because they have been heavily impacted by COVID, and we have to have some plan in place which acknowledges that. And a year, March is a long time to be waiting before we actually start thinking, what we're putting in place for that. We are where we are now. Thank you.
And just to say that work will start now. That work starts now. We won't be waiting to March to start the work. We will be bringing the refresh strategy in March.
And we'll make sure that the minute from today records your points, Alison, too.
Thank you very much.
So Leslie, I see Leslie's hand, and then I'm not sure who was next. We'll say Sandra MacDonald after Leslie. Leslie.
Thank you, Chair. It was just to say about how, the voice of lived experience in terms of carers is crucial to this whole process. And I understand, that there may have been barriers, in terms of us being able to access those voices. But it is really important as we go forward now, they are included. And I guess my question's really around the enabling and empowerment to hear carers' voices, and maybe looking at other models for support in terms of particularly peer support and informal support, which is touched on in the report. But it seems to me a lot of carers do get their support informally, and how we might engender more of that.
Yes, absolutely. And when we developed the existing strategy, we undertook what we called a carers conversation, you know, where we invited carers to come along and tell us, you know, how they felt and what they needed. And that was absolutely incorporated in the existing strategy. So we'll absolutely build on that going forward, although our process to achieve that might be slightly different under COVID restrictions, but you know, we still have been able to engage with service users and with carers all the way through the pandemic. So I'm sure we'll be able to continue that as we see restrictions lifting. But absolutely, we have our commissioned carer service, and part of the refreshed contract with the commissioned carer service was to develop exactly those as much informal support as formal support, and to maximise the assets we have already in the community around supporting carers to undertake their role. So that will absolutely be a feature going forward.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie and Alison. Sandra.
I was just building, I suppose, on what others have said, particularly Councillor Dunbar there, but is there, my understanding or even my own experience is that there has been a new cohort of people who have, over the last 18 months, because of COVID, become unpaid carers. And so it's just to ensure, and I'm sure, you know, Alison will and I have take that forward. I suppose I'm perhaps one of those, and you know, because there will always be that kind of churn of carers or unpaid carers anyway. But I think there's a whole new cohort developed. Would I be correct in thinking that?
Absolutely, we're aware that a lot of people's circumstances have changed over the last year or so. But as you say, things change constantly. So it's a constant ambition of ours to ensure that we help individuals to identify as a carer and come forward and take the as much or as little support as they themselves need, understanding that again those needs may change over time. You know, it tends to be in a new caring role or at the beginning of a caring role, perhaps an individual will push back and say, no, it's all fine and I can manage, but then, you know, their own circumstances or the circumstances of the person they care for can change. So we have to, we're trying to build into the communication strategy, etc., that we communicate regularly, and we regularly come and ask people, are you still okay? Do you need more help? You know, what is it that's available? But you're absolutely right. We have seen a big change over the last year or so, and that will be fed into how you know, we approach going forward, and be reflected in the strategy, the new strategy that we bring forward next year.
Thank you.
John Tomlinson.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm thinking of this in terms of assurance, and there's two aspects. I think the fact that circumstances mean the strategy will come through in March 22, in some ways I'm assured that it's going to be stronger than if it had been earlier, if that doesn't sound a bit strange, because of the resourcing aspect that's going to be important here. You know, we've heard from the Feely report in terms of needing better and more consistent support, perhaps the right to respite, and also funding early intervention, etc. And I think with our executive team being able, you know, they have delivered some impressive changes, and we've seen some of that reported today. And so I would be kind of confident and assured that something will come through and then align to our strategy and the resourcing, because this is going to need a paradigm shift. But In the meantime, it's that bit of assurance that I'm just wondering about and thinking we're not, where might we have some sight over the next year of the issues that carers are facing and how that £1 million is being utilised, etc. I think I would be keen, Chair, if there was some consideration of us as board members or through one of the committees having some sight of what's happening for people today, or in the current year.
Thanks, John. That's a helpful point. Alison, do we have the carers? I suppose it's split over a number of different agendas, isn't it? Because there's the respite and there's the Stay Well, Stay Connected work. I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can bring that together to one of our committees in terms of assurance for what's being provided over the next 12 months. I see Sandra's got her hand up. Sandra, do you want to come in on this point?
Yeah, please. Actually, I'd quite like to just cover a few points. Actually, I appreciate what John's saying about the assurance, and absolutely right. Fully acknowledge as well what Alison Murray is stating about the conversation and about how where we are with carer strategy. Also acknowledge that Alison's response and fully support that. I think one of the key things, as John has rightly picked up, is that this was about the strategy and it's not about the implementation. We have been supporting carers across the past year with our delivery models and working with where we can and helping things to progress. It's absolutely right, and I think we have on a number of occasions asked the IJB to give time for allowing us to do a proper and full consultation rather than just moving something forward. And the expectation with this year is just to allow us to do that, is to do a robust, so that we can continue to give the level of collaboration and co-design that we have been used to up over the last couple of years and helping to move that forward. So apologies that we have been late on this strategy, but I think, as John rightly so highlights, it will give an assurance that when we do review the strategy, it will be robust in taking that forward. And John, I would say that we will be able to provide some detail, and there has been support. For example, you'll be aware of all the care reviews that are taking place, all the work that's been done across numerous areas. Our care management teams have been working with carers. We've been providing care at home, we've been providing services. Respite has been there where we can, different daycare services. So it isn't as if that the services have been provided, albeit I would absolutely recognise the difficulties that carers have had over this past year.
Thanks, Sandra. That's helpful. We'll come on to recommendations at the end. I see Philip has his hand up. Philip.
Chair, thank you. Quite an interesting report. All the reports are interesting that we've seen today. But this is really just about the numbers of carers. So on page 335 of the report pack, I'm just really wanting just a little bit of clarity. So the report says there are 1,200 adult carers known to the Commissioned Carer Support Service. It also says there's 801 carers are registered with the social care databases. It then says 542 carers have actually had a carers assessment. And the report also says there could be as many as 1,300 young carers with an age range of between 0 and 14. And I'm just really wanting perhaps just a little bit of clarity about the carers, the number of carers, the registered number of carers, the registered number of carers who've actually had training, and this age range of young carers as well, which doesn't seem quite right. Thank you.
Thanks, Philip. First of all, those numbers were back when the original carer strategy was being produced. So those numbers were from some national information and local information that we had at that time. So those numbers will have changed. But we have this age-old issue, I guess, of you know, people recognising themselves as carers or not. You know, that label, if you like, of an unpaid carer. You know, not everybody is willing to accept that. So, you know, we've tried to estimate how many people might be undertaking a caring role, but then we have numbers of who our commissioned service is aware of. We have numbers who actually go forward and undertake an adult carer support plan, and so, you know, so the numbers are all different. You know, it depends on who comes forward and who's presenting themselves to a service at any one time, and who actually goes forward to have a support plan created. Some of the young carer numbers come from estimates from education services, but I would say certainly now we're in a much better place to be able to report the numbers that we have more accurately. Our Young Carers Development Group in particular, they've done a lot of work in getting into schools and identifying carers that way and providing support for them.
Thank you. So on the age range though of the young carers, I mean, surely it's going to be something like maybe 8 to 14, but not 0 to 14, surely.
Technically 0, but you're absolutely right. It's usually age 8 upwards. It is normally when they undertake a caring role, but technically, as per the legislation, it's up to the age of 18 years.
Well, thank you. And just one final question, but just relates to adult carers, and I'm just trying to understand. I understand, you know, exactly what you said, Alison. But the different numbers, just there's a huge disparity. So adult carers known to the Commissioned Carer Support Service 1,200, but 801 registered with social care databases. So does that mean then that 400 carers have no support at all? You know.
So they may not have come forward to go through the adult carer support planning process for formal support to be provided, but they'll be known to the adult carer support service and perhaps maybe receiving informal support through them.
Right. So they're okay. So they're on a database somewhere, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So we had various means of identifying carers prior to the initial strategy being implemented, but now it's a bit more robust in terms of our adult carer support service will be our go-to place for where our carers will be registered. But there will still be a disparity between the number of carers that are known to the support service and those who come forward for adult care support plans, for instance, because not everybody wants to go through that formal process.
Right. Okay. I think I picked up in another part of the report that there's going to be some sort of a campaign to let people know that that if they feel they're a carer, they can actually go and talk to someone and register and so forth.
Absolutely, that's part of the awareness raising and encouraging people to come forward. But you know, we are under the legislation, we're obliged to offer that an adult carer support plan to every carer. But our experience so far since 2018 is that not every adult wants to go through that formal adult carer support planning process, and that they would rather have more informal support. So it is, they do have a choice in the matter. So it's not that every unpaid carer would go through the planning process.
Thank you.
Alison Murray, I see your hand went up. Was it a comment on the numbers or the age range? Oh, you're still on.
The age range about young carers. They can be younger than 8. They can be quite a lot younger than 8 because it's particularly if you're with siblings and things like that, having to provide support throughout the house and support parents in caring for siblings. They can be quite a lot younger than 8. And my other point was about adult carer support plans. I think there's a large perception that it won't bring value to a lot of people. So a lot of people won't ask for one because they see that don't consider that it would bring any value. Thank you.
Thanks, Alison. John Cook, thanks for your patience.
Thanks, Anne. Yeah, it was just coming at this from a kind of management of risk angle. Given that we are in breach of the requirements, there's obviously a bit of reputational damage there. I just wondered, what is there a legal consequence to that? And I should also say, I totally get where Alison McLeod's coming from in terms of lack of capacity, given what we've been through in the last 18 months. I think a lot of people would totally accept that. But yeah, just wonder what the legal position is.
So approving this extension, what we're asking for you is to approve this extension to the existing carers contract, carers strategy to March 2022. That will bring us back in line with our legislative requirements by having a current carers strategy.
Okay.
Thanks.
That question, John. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that does. And just to say also, I totally echo John Tomlinson's comments earlier about the fact that while this may not be ideal, delaying a bit till we can actually fully assess the impact of COVID might actually get us to be in a better place in the longer term. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks, John. No, I think we're all in agreement there. My understanding of where we are is this gives us the time to do the real co-production with the whole range of carers that are out there, and there's not one type of carer. There's lots of different experiences, and to bring in the COVID impact, which has created, well, just difference and probably more people in doing a caring role that maybe wouldn't have identified before. So I think taking the time to do this properly is really important. So I think this is the right thing to do. But from the conversation, I wonder if we should add an additional recommendation that's around requesting an assurance report on current or what's been delivered during this year to come to one of our committees on support for carers. I'm not sure which committee or how best to do that, but there's just something about a little bit of assurance on what we're doing in the interim. Sandra?
So I wonder if I can make a suggestion, Chair. I'm really conscious about, and as the board will have seen through all the reports that have been prepared today, we are working through, having just completed our plans, we're now away towards preparing the strategic plan. And I do appreciate that we've got our business planner, and to add in an additional report regarding bringing back what we are doing, and wonder if it would be more fruitful and be more conducive to the end result if we ask as part of our consultation what support carers have been doing, and that could be fed into the strategy and fed into the documents that we will bring back in March, as opposed to a separate paper in the middle and then a separate one coming back. I'm just conscious about where we are and where the IJB would like us to focus our resources on.
Yeah, I think it's not about, we don't want to create more work unnecessarily, but we do need that assurance. So maybe we can just go offline with that to figure out how best to provide that without having to firm up the details on this meeting right now. But just having some sight of what's happening this year would be helpful. I was also wondering whether as we're doing with the wider strategy, it might be helpful for IJB members to see an early draft of the carers strategy, rather than, I know we'll get the final one presented in March next year, but to have early sight of that so that we can just get around it and support it and ask all the questions that we would want to ask. But that doesn't need to come in a special paper. That could be in a seminar type session, or as part of the wider strategy plan. So we can maybe just make a note of that in the minute and figure out the detail offline, if that's okay. Okay, seeing nodding. So we'll go to recommendations now, and we'll also note, as I said earlier, Alison Murray's comments in the minute as well. So we're asked to approve the proposal to extend the timeframe for the Aberdeen City Carers strategy that's contained in Appendix A, approve the plans for a subsequent full review of Aberdeen City Carer strategy, instruct the Chief Officer to bring back the revised Aberdeen City Carer strategy for approval to the March 2022 meeting. And we'll give consideration to what we need to do over the next few months with regards assurance and the IJB being cited on development of the new strategy. And probably just to finish that, just an acknowledgement of a thanks really to the staff that have continued to work during COVID, supporting carers in different ways, whilst totally recognising that hasn't met all needs, and a real strong intent that I'm hearing that we're about looking to the future and improving and developing what's in place for carers as we go forward. So thank you, everyone. I'm seeing there's no people are happy with that as recommendations and as notes for the minute. Okay, thank you. Right, final item, I think, unless I've missed anything, no, is the final item, is the portfolio management paper. Sandra, are you going to talk to this paper and introduce this for us today?
Yeah, absolutely, I will do. Just very briefly, the paper before you really was requested to provide assurance to the IJB on the support that's in place across the leadership team to ensure the delivery of the IJB strategic plan and objectives of the Chief Officer and the leadership team as agreed in March through the Chief Finance Officer's report. So just really that the portfolio approach is one that's been developed and is really in very early stages, and any decisions or formal or changes that will come through the IJB will be engaged and involved in that. But at this moment in time, I think the key part is to say that the portfolio approach certainly offers an opportunity for us to be engaged as wider partners and to really move forward on the integration agenda. And we're confident as a leadership team and confident as a Chief Officer that we will continue to deliver on our objectives and our strategic plans. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Sandra, for that overview. I'll open that up to questions from people. So this is just really putting this on the radar for us as this portfolio approach develops and evolves. John Tomlinson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm very happy to support the report here, but I'm just kind of mindful. I mean, it's good that we've actually got the leadership team objectives coming through RAP, as I mentioned when we were looking at that minute, and those will be reported at each meeting. And it is a complex set of arrangements. And I think this is where we should go. And I am confident that the leadership team are on top of this, and that Sandra then has capacity to do this work. I'm just mindful that the kind of feely direction of travel can kind of is in tension with this, and I suppose my question is there any danger that we get too embedded into this arrangement and then it has to be undone at some point in the future?
Should we come back, Chair?
Yes, thanks,
Yeah.
Sandra.
So I think this arrangement is just really so at present with regards to the portfolios and the areas of responsibility, the IJB has strategic planning responsibility already with regards to medicine, with regards to ED, and unscheduled care is one of our key indicators that for our delayed discharge and things. So I don't see this as being anything other than our direction of travel. The Feely report, I absolutely understand what's came forward with that, but I think we do have to go through a legislative process with that. That'll have to go through its government and how long that is until that's finalised and what that position will look like. Whereas at this moment in time, the changes and the opportunity we have to move forward regarding unscheduled care are very imminent for this winter and for next winter while we still work through the Feely report. So absolutely take on board that there may well be things that we put in place and then have to relearn and reframe. But I think that the opportunity that's provided with us to help us move forward on the strategic objectives of the IJB are quite significant. Hopefully that answers your question, John. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, I think it does help actually in terms of timeframes, because there may be a number of years before anything comes through in legislation, and we can be mindful of this. And I do actually support it as the right way to go in terms of having pathways that are joined up. I suppose what we probably need to reflect on, and these working groups that the IJB have set up around, and one of them accountability and responsibility, it is this bit of governance as to where you cut the lines, or if they can be cut in terms of what we're looking at here and what we look at with our NHS hats on or our council hats. And I think maybe over the next 24 months, we just need to be mindful of trying to understand those bits of governance so that we keep on top of it. But yeah, I just wanted to air that kind of the need for that to be as transparent as possible as we go forward with this, but certainly support it myself.
Thanks, John. That's really helpful. Jenny Gibb.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to ask around the portfolios, Sandra, I understand that one of them is a mental health portfolio, and I was just trying to work out in my head, how does that fit with the Mental Health Transformation Board that obviously started before COVID? Will these things merge together? Thanks.
Yes. The transformation programme, the transformation board is a multi-agency, multi-service all the way across Grampian and helping move forward mental health services altogether, which is exactly, the portfolio is just an overarching with mental health. So yes, short answer.
Thank you. Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, Sandra. Leslie.
Thank you, Chair. I really welcome, I think, this approach. I think that it really, without it, let's say, there would be a difficulty for us in terms of reaching our ambitions, in terms of integrating services fully between health and social care. So I think it's really positive to see this report. And I'd like to say that, well done to everybody that's involved, and hopefully we'll maybe get a little bit more detail in terms of some of the evaluation that will come out of this work.
Thanks, Leslie. That's really helpful. I'm not seeing any other points or questions from people. I think just to acknowledge for the minute that what I'm hearing is there's strong support for this approach, but there's just some things we need to be mindful of, and that's around making sure this doesn't take us in a different direction from Feely, which it's not suggesting that it is, but also to take our time to work through the governance, so we're clear on our areas of responsibility and accountability, and that this is an emerging and developing area, and I'm not wanting to put more reports onto anyone, but there will be further updates to the IJB on how this approach is working in due course, Sandra, I would expect, without having to add that in as a recommendation, but this is just letting us know this is happening, and as it develops, we'll get further updates in the future. Yeah, would that be right? I'm seeing you nodding. Yes. Okay. So we can record that for the minute. I'm just seeing Angela's comment there about we will have the opportunity to be consulted on the National Care Service, and IJB can do a response to that. So we have time to work through these governance boundary issues that are emerging, and I think it's just, I don't think anyone has the answers to any of this yet. It's just working it through and being really transparent about, wait a minute, where's the risks here, and working it through together. So I think we're all on the same page and keen to absolutely do that. So thank you. That's been a helpful conversation. I'll just move to the recommendation, which is that the IJB note the level of assurance provided within the report in relation to portfolio management. and we'll ensure that the minute captures some of the comments that folk have made around it. Okay, people happy with that? Yep. Good, and also importantly, support for this approach, as Leslie was describing, as both Johns were saying, it does lend itself to what we're trying to do through integration, so it's to be welcomed. So thank you. I think that's us on. Yeah, we're finished. We've done the whole agenda and I've got 6 minutes spare, so that's very good. We've got our meetings of the next IJBs are all listed at the bottom, and we will have, I believe we'll have a digital seminar in August, and then another seminar in September. So thank you very much all for your attendance today, and maybe see you before the 24th of August, I hope so. But if not, have a nice summer, and I hope you all get some break from work stuff. But anyway, thank you, and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.